Hi everyone, I'm Ryan, back in the garage. I've got some time today, so I'm going to finish off what I was doing in the last upload. I've managed to get the gasket, so that allowed me to get the clutch cover back on, bolted up, make sure everything's okay, get some oil back in this engine. So that will be just conclusion of that. So just a few minutes task, that one, and that's done. Then on to the main event for today. So I have bought myself fuel tank lining kit. I've never done this before. I've seen others and I talked about that in the last upload. So I've bought this. I bought it because it was available. I managed to get it reasonably quickly. Cost me about £45, specifically safe for ethanol. That shouldn't be so much of an issue on these old bikes because we only run 5% ethanol, but even so I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be an issue. So I'm going to carefully read these instructions. I'm going to get the tank off of the Super Dream. I need to get the petcock out of it, and I've not done that before, so I'm anticipating that's going to fight me. It might even break, I don't know. But then I need to get as much of the rust and the rubbish out of it as possible, and then start this three-stage process of cleaning, preparing and then coating. I don't think I'm going to get it all done today, so this might take me a couple of days, but however long it takes, I'll include it in this upload. Right, let's get started. Okay, so I'm just doing the reassembly, and those of you that watched the Super Dream noticed that I actually managed to get this gasket not seated properly, and it caused me a leak, so I had to change this gasket on the other engine. So what I've just done is I've just made sure that all the bolts are in place and the gasket is definitely seated over every bolt before I tighten any of them up. So just make sure it's absolutely sitting exactly where it's meant to be. So now I'm just going to carefully tighten all the bolts up, and then I know the gasket is sat in place. The alternative was to use a bit of sealant. I didn't want to do that because it shouldn't need it. So I think this is the better way to do it. I might be wrong, but that's the way I've done it anyway. Okay, gasket's on, everything's torqued up. I've just removed and checked the oil filter. That all looks good. The clutch is operational to a point, and that's operating. I know that it shouldn't have the two bolts on that side, but I'm working with an old non-standard clutch cable, so for the moment that's it, but the mechanism works. The cable I can change later. So I think it's time for some oil. Got some 1040 and motorcycle oil. Let's try that, and I think it takes 2.3 litres. So let's get that in it, and hopefully it'll stay in it with a bit of luck. Just get a little bit in it first, make sure that it doesn't come out the where the oil filter is. So I'm going to fill it up slowly and keep monitoring it. Right, so moving on to the tank. I've just read the instructions carefully, and whilst it's a three-stage process, there's actually a fourth stage. So to begin with, before I use any of these chemicals, it tells me to remove the tank and give it a good wash with just warm soapy water and make sure there's no rust flakes in it. So that will be the first thing I need to do. So let's get it off. Let's try and remove the petcock, wish me luck with that, and try and wash it out. Now, I really struggled previously when I was trying to empty the tank because there's a lip all the way round the filler, which means that even if you tip it fully upside down, all the liquid doesn't come out, which is annoying. So hopefully with the petcock removed I can get all the liquid out through that opening. Hopefully, let's see. Right, let's get it off. See what we find. I want to move. Oh, I'm not feeling like I want to. Yeah, that's threaded on there. That is threaded on there. So that does need to unwind that way. Okay, it turned. It turned. What's going to come out? Okay. Okay. Right. Let's go and take that to a funnel, see if I can tip anything out of it. That has just taken me about 20 minutes to get all the fuel out of this tank. So yeah, I took the petcock out, took it to a funnel and a petrol can, tipped it up, got more and more and more and more and more fuel out of it. But I could still hear it sloshing around. I could even see it when it was tipped up on its edge. But you can turn it upside down, you could tip it, you could rotate it. No direction would get all the fuel out. Which to me, I think that's going to be a nightmare when I try and line this tank. Because you're meant to be putting stuff in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out. I'm not sure that's going to be easy or possible. So, anyway, I did finally get it all out. In the end, I used a siphon and a syringe, and I was putting this in the lowest point that I could see fuel and sucking it out that way. That's the only way I managed to get the last bit of fuel out of this thing. I might have to do that when it's getting the last bits of water out of it and the last bits of cleaner out of it. It's this lip here, it's about that deep. So even if you tip it upside down, you don't get the last bit out. Okay, right. Let me think long and hard before I go any further. I don't want to go down a route I can't get myself out of. Yeah, I might need to regroup and rethink this. Okay, I've sat and thought about this for a few minutes, and I think I've got a plan. I need to do this, I need to line the tank. So the fact that I'm feeling hesitant or unsure about doing it, I need to overcome, disregard, carry on. It needs doing. Reading the instructions, it clearly tells me that I have to clean the tank with hot soapy water first, then rinse that, then apply the rust dissolver, the prep. Now, I've been warned not to leave that in too long. It says to do it visually and to keep checking. Now the only rust I can see is in the far corner, which I can only check with my little boroscope thing. Interestingly, all the fuel I've just got out of this, all the dregs of fuel I got out of it, I put through a very fine mesh on the base of my funnel. And there's no visible rust flakes. Not one. Not a single visible rust flake come out of that. Now okay, my funnel's fine, very fine, but it's not microscopically fine, and I know how little it takes to block a carburettor. So what do? I think I need to start the process and not stop. As in, I need to perform the whole process through in one go. And for various reasons, it's already now about 3:30 in the afternoon before I've started. So I'm thinking I'm not going to begin the process now. I'm going to begin the process early in the day so that I've got the time available to do it without then running out of time. Does that make sense? I think so. So it won't make any difference to you watching this, but I'm going to pause this for tonight and probably reconvene it tomorrow morning, because I can keep popping in and out. I am working tomorrow, but I work from home. So to pop in for 10 minutes, clean something out throughout the day is not difficult for me. I think that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, back in a moment. Okay, so I'm really struggling to get liquids in or out of this tank, and this is now looking inside the petcock, and we can see it's like a tunnel which protrudes upwards, and that is higher than the base of the tank. So I think that ring around the outside is the base of the tank, and then I've got all this. What is that? Should that be there? Is that something that's been previously blocked up with tank liner? I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me. Right, I'm going to try and probe in here to find out what that white material is and see if it's meant to be there or not. So I found the specialist tool for probing deep inside the small opening of a fuel tank. And if my wife asks, no, it is not one of her hair clips butchered into a crude hook. So remember that. Meant to be there? Darn. Is it soft? Let's have a look. See what that looks like. No wonder I'm struggling to empty the tank out. Right, I need to try and remove as much of this as possible. I got it out, and it was a filter, so it was meant to be there. It wasn't a problem, but getting it out was difficult. I don't think I've even damaged it. Right, hopefully, well, maybe I have damaged it a little. Okay, there was a filter, and it came out with some rubbish which I've just managed to discard. Interesting. Interesting. Look, I've got rust. I've got rust coming out the tank. Now let's see if I can get the stuff out. Okay, so I've got water in it, and this is just to make sure there's no fuel left at all. Maybe disturb any rust particles. Tipping this out into a clean, clear container and see if we can manage to disturb anything. Looks nasty. Look. It just does not want to come out. Not that way, that's for sure. Right, let's try this way then. I just put the petcock on loosely, so I should be able to just wind it off. Oh, come on. Why are you so difficult? Same problem. Same problem. Getting liquid out. Just does not want to come out. Still more liquid in there. It's definitely better than it was. Still, come on. This is going to be a long day if I have to do this repeatedly. So it does not just flow out, there is clearly a lip or something which is still making that difficult. Every time I do this, so I'm making the water flow over that ridge. I'll turn it upside down. Still. So I'm going to have to go back to my little siphon. What's that water go back? It looks a bit dirty. There's like a scum layer on the top. Let me tell you what. I'm going to let that settle for a bit, see what it looks like. But right now, it's not particularly clean. Right, yeah, I'm going to leave that to it. I'm going to get the remaining water out of that and then leave that alone just to settle to see what it looks like. Okay, so that's what came out, and there's clear rust, dust and rubbish sat on the top of the water. Little bits of fuel still in it, so to be expected. Right, I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is like a primer etcher, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm at the point of no going back now. So tank wash cleaner dissolves rust, etches metal. So this is actually the start of the process. So let's get that in there. That is no doubt some pretty corrosive shit. Okay, and then it says fill it up with warm water, which is exactly what this is, just taken from the kitchen. Going to get some more water, but then we'll be leaving that to work. It's now the next morning, so we're really on day 2 of this process. This has been left dissolving the rust and etching the metal overnight, which was what the instructions suggested for a tank with rust. It also says that the solution can be used more than once. So I'm going to try and create some bungs out of some fingers from a rubber glove for the tank on the scrambler, to try and block up the fuel tap on that, and then I'm going to dispense the solution from this tank into the other tank, which also has rust in it. So I'll take a quick look at that before, and then I'll get on and dispense this, and we'll leave that for another 12-14 hours. Meanwhile, we'll carry on with this. Right. Carry on. Okay, so there is the inside of the scrambler tank before we try that solution. Let's see how that improves it. Alright, so this is now the scrambler tank after it's had a good soaking, and you can see that inside is much better. So yeah, the rust, at least for now, is gone. Now I don't have the liner for this tank, so it's likely to flash rust slightly, but it will be an easy clean next time. Cool. Right, now let's get back to the Super Dream tank and get that finished off. Okay, back to the super tank prep. I mean, this is on day 2 and it is now looking nice and clean in there. No trace of any rust, looking like a dull sheen, which is what it tells me to expect. So the next stage is I need to do, where is it? Where is it? Here. Tank prep. So final rinse. So I've already cleaned that. I've rinsed it multiple times with fresh water. So this now is a final rinse and it removes water. So let's put that in. Okay, so much time has passed. Now I've got a beard. Okay, it told me to reclaim the tank prep as much as I possibly could. And I got most of it back. But that was particularly complicated, and it does look like it's beginning to dissolve some paint. So I've probably ruined the paintwork. I tried not to, but it was inevitable. Anyway, we'll look at that afterwards. I think the next set of instructions are to actually line the tank. So let me read that carefully and move on to that next. Okay. So I've put it in. Just slowly rotating it around. I can see the coating sort of moving inside the tank. So I'm just going to keep doing this for a few minutes, and then it says let it sit in one position for 10 minutes. I'll then turn it, give it another 10 minutes. Sort of just keep rotating it around to get a complete coating on the whole tank. So I think sit that there for 10 minutes and rotate it. Right, this is now about another 36 hours later, and I decided that this was going to be the conclusion and I was going to look at the tank. And what I found is, when I tried to use the little remote camera, I was finding that some of the lining was still wet and it was actually coming off onto the camera and it was sticking onto the end. So this liner still needs more time. So I'm going to have to conclude this video now, because it has been days and days of effort to get to this point, and really just show you that it sort of looks okay from as much as I can visually see. It has damaged the paintwork on the top of my tank, and I think it's lined, but there's not much more I can do than that. In fact, the one thing I can do is my bung that is under here I can remove. So let me remove that and we'll have a quick look as much as we can see there together. As I say, this has now been 36 hours this has been drying, and I can still see, you can see inside that, it's still running, it's still liquid, so it hasn't dried. And this is meant to be air drying, and it says just expose it to the air for 6 hours. Well, it's being exposed to the air for more than that. Just keep rotating it around, leave it longer. Right, I'm going to put this upload up. I wanted to end with a conclusion, and my conclusion is this process takes days and days and days. Okay, watch me next week. Hopefully it will be concluded. hopefully it'll be back on and the bike will be running again. Because I need to clean the carb and sort out why the idle circuit wasn't running on the right hand side. So I'm going to wrap the conclusion of this and the carb conclusion into the next upload. Right, that's it. That's all I've got time for now. Bye all. See you all soon.